Hey, what's going on, you guys? Happy Sunday. Thank you for joining me again. I really appreciate you hanging out with me. I hope that this was useful for you. Today, we're going to talk about gross vehicle weight recommended. I always get that confused. It's gross vehicle weight recommended, and you can find yours usually on the door sill. There's a little label, and you can see what the recommended weight for your vehicle is when it is fully loaded. First of all, let's talk about that number and what it means. It means that's the manufacturer's recommended weight of the vehicle when it's got passengers and everything loaded into it. Now, you might think that they're going to be conservative and be very safe with that number, when in fact the opposite is actually true. They have that number be as high as possible because as consumers, we see that number as a bragging point. It means that our vehicle is more capable, right? And so you actually want to be careful around maximum vehicle weight recommended because they're not conservative. So you might find another number as well, and that is gross axle weight recommended. And usually it's got a designation like front or rear to tell you what the max load of that axle is. And you can combine those and come up with a number that is different than your max vehicle weight. So you want to be, that has to do with weight distribution. And again, you still want to be conservative. Now let's take my Land Cruiser as a real world example. I'll step you through it. So I go and I get my gross vehicle weight recommended, and it is about 6,500 pounds. Now, off the showroom floor, mine was the 96 Land Cruiser was just under 5,000 pounds. It's, 4,970 or something like that as it rolls off the factory floor. And so you might look at that and you might say, hey, well, you got 1,000 pounds, 1,100 pounds if your gross vehicle weight recommended is say 6,500, 6,400, 6,500. So you got about 1,000 pounds to work with. That's a lot of weight. It's actually not. You burn through 1,000 pounds in no time at all. So if you think about your tires, your rack, your front ARB bumper with a winch, you think of the rear bumper, these are hundreds of pounds, the rack, and pretty soon you get up there to over 1,000 pounds, 1,200 pounds. Then you add your camping gear, your passengers, and all of those things, and you exceed that. Now, I am over my gross vehicle weight recommended, and I would not be surprised if many folks out there are over their maximum recommended weight. I am not over the axle weight recommended, and I take that more as a mechanical safety and not an overall safety. It means my axles and my drivetrain are probably going to handle the weight that I have. Now, I've done a number of things to compensate for the weight of the vehicle, and that is springs. I've got a lift, I've got some springs on the rig, but here's my basic recommendation when you're building out an overland rig is to start with your gross vehicle weight recommended for your rig, whatever it is. Start with that number, subtract the weight of your vehicle, and you know approximately what your target is going to be. And design your camping kit and your passengers and your accessory weight around that weight envelope, the difference. So you might say, hey, I can add 1,200 pounds to this. I can add 1,500 pounds to this on my vehicle and still be safe and within my means. And start from that standpoint. Here's a couple of things that you do not want to do. You do not want to design your vehicle just based on what you want or the look, right? This is common sense, but you don't want to say, well, I gotta have the sliders, I gotta have the rack, I gotta have all these things without any consideration about your gross vehicle, your maximum vehicle weight. The other thing you don't want to do is you don't want to take a vehicle that maybe has 300 pounds to work with and try and make it an expedition vehicle. So An example is that a small passenger car like a Subaru with all-wheel drive is awesome for some rally and enduro stuff. It can even be an extreme performer if you outfit it that way, but it's never going to be an expedition weight vehicle, meaning you're not going to be able to load a bunch of stuff onto that vehicle and take it with you. You have to design around the platform. If you only have 500 pounds to work with or 600 pounds to work with, you have to keep that in mind. Now, tires and wheels, that is unsprung weight, and it affects the dynamics of your vehicle considerably. So the big 35s, if you go from 32-inch tires to 35-inch tires, well, there's a 150-pound upgrade right there, and that is unsprung weight, which means, well, it's below the springs. And there's a lot of momentum, and that means those larger tires have not only the weight, but they create a lot of forward momentum, and so your braking is going to be affected. Basically, you can measure the G-force of the same vehicle with 32-inch tires and 35-inch tires, and it's going to be a significant difference. The G-force with the 32-inch tires is going to be greater when you are in a panic stop situation. What that means is it can attain higher G-force, stop you faster, whereas a vehicle with the 35-inch tires cannot. It has forward momentum. It's not going to be able to stop you as quickly. So when you are outfitting your vehicle, the heavier it gets, the more you want to modify your driving practices. So keep in mind, you can't stop. Now, those of you with heavy vehicles out there, you kind of have come up with a feeling for this, and hopefully not the hard way by getting into an accident or something like that. But you have to modify your driving. You have to know that you can't stop as fast. You have to give more lead distance. Instead of that slow 2 count between vehicles, you might be giving it a slow 3 count between vehicles for the vehicle in front of you, because you just can't stop as quickly as other people can. Also, please consider the location of that weight. First of all, you want the weight to be distributed. You don't want it to be all over the rear axle versus the front axle. You want it to be distributed weight, and you want it to be as low as possible so that the center of gravity of your vehicle is low. The higher the weight on the vehicle, the more opportunity it is for that vehicle to roll. Your rollover angle is going to be smaller the higher up that weight is. That is a very important consideration. So if you have a tall vehicle with a 6-inch Ranger roof rack, and then you have a rooftop tent, a large rooftop tent on top of that, that weight is really high, and where you're going to feel it is on the trail when you start getting off camber like this, because that weight's way over there and it wants your vehicle to roll over. So you want to keep that weight as low as possible when you're building out your vehicle. Now, my final recommendation is this. If you want to get really serious about this, then you probably want to configure your overland vehicle in normal expedition weight. And what I mean by that is load it up exactly how you're going to take it on the road, whether it's a 3-month trip or a 1-month trip. However you're going to load that vehicle, do that, and then take it to a suspension, a well-known suspension outfitter, so that they can weigh the vehicle on all 4 corners. It varies. Gas tank is on one side, your refrigerator, is it on the same side? Is the refrigerator on the other side? Are you a lone passenger? Do you drive solo? Do you have another passenger on the other passenger side? Where is your weight? What side is the spare tire on? Does it hang on this side? Does it hang on this side? There are all kinds of considerations for the distribution of your weight. So have your expedition weight, and then you may want to consider different spring rates, different shock adjustments, a different configuration on all 4 corners. That's kind of min-maxing and microing your suspension, but in the case of large weight offset, it might be a good idea for you to weigh on all 4 corners and adjust your suspension accordingly. You can get heavier rate springs, you can get airbags, you can get things to keep your vehicle from sagging in the back, like I have done, but that does not mean that your vehicle is not overweighted. The way it sits has nothing to do with maximum weight. So please take this into consideration carefully. If you want to distill this video down into a good rule of thumb, it is to take your weight off the factory line and your gross recommended vehicle weight. Find the difference, and that is the amount of weight that you have to work with. So in my case, off the factory line, 4,900 pounds. Gross recommended weight is 6,400 pounds. So my difference is, what I just say, it's about 1,000 pounds, plus or minus 100. All right, so I have 1,000 pounds to work with. I'm over that. I am not over the mechanical axle limit, but I know, I'm very aware that I am over that, and I adjust my driving accordingly. I drive like a grandma when I'm driving around the streets because I don't want to have to be doing any emergency movements. I don't want to have to stop fast, and that's just the reality of outfitting an expedition vehicle. All right, you guys, hey, I hope that was super helpful. If you guys have comments, again, you guys are so knowledgeable out there in the community. Please share your own experiences down in the comments. Let other people know what you have done, any ideas that you have, web resources, things of that nature. Please let us know, and thanks again for hanging out with me. I hope to see you on the trail very soon.